July 7th Development Review Commission meeting. I'd like to start with roll call. Kat?
Scheer?
Here.
Berardi?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Silent?
Here.
Arthur?
Here.
And Frankel is absent.
Okay, great. It's great to see you all. Our first order of business tonight will be minutes for June 21st. Did everybody have a chance to review them? Any changes?
I did have one addition I'd like to make or suggest to page 2. The fourth full paragraph down, the 7th line, refers to a challenge that had been made, and the line says, firm was representing a client adverse to OTAC, period. He stated that he had no financial interest. I also said, and I would offer this amendment, he stated that, comma, as an of counsel attorney, comma, he had no financial interest.
Okay. Any other additions or changes?
I would move to approve the minutes with that amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Kat, you want to poll the commission?
Scheer?
Yes. Abstain.
Berardi?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Silent?
Yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Motion passed, minutes are approved. Now we move on to the findings for LU 210011, a request for approval of the following. A development review permit for a new 15-unit multifamily building in the downtown redevelopment district. A minor variance to the maximum retaining wall height and the removal of 3 trees. This site is located at 21D Avenue, tax map lot 21E03DA, tax lots 1801, 2000, and 2001. The staff coordinator is Evan Franstead, senior planner. Any comments on the findings?
Mr. Chair, excuse me, since 2 commissioners did declare potential conflicts of interest or the potential appearance of a conflict of interest, I think we ought to go ahead and put those back on the record because you need to declare conflict of interest at each meeting in which the matter is discussed.
Okay. So should we then go ahead and declare first?
Right. We'll do that before the vote.
Okay. I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
Okay.
So Commissioner Berardi?
Did you have any financial conflicts of interest to declare ex parte? No. Okay. Commissioner Smith?
No financial.
Commissioner Smith?
I'm a little confused what you're asking me to.
Wait, OTAC was a member of this one?
Yes?
Yes. So.
Has anything changed since my last declaration?
Well, unfortunately, with the financial conflicts of interest, we need to declare those at each meeting. Okay, so it's like a continuing issue. So you just, in short summary, your firm represents OTAC on the corporate matters.
Correct.
As you said.
And I'm senior counsel, so I don't financially, I don't obtain any financial interest from OTAC based on the fact that I'm senior counsel as opposed to a shareholder.
Right, okay. And then Commissioner Arthur.
Well, I had disclosed that when I did a conflicts check, I identified a file that was open where the Bullivan-Hauser-Bailey client was adverse to OTAC, among others. And so I declared that at each meeting. And I also indicated that I am an of-counsel attorney. And as such, I'm an employee of the firm and have no financial interest in the outcome of that matter. I'm not working on that matter. I know nothing about it. And the fact that my firm is representing a client that has interests adverse to OTAC did not dispose me one way or the other to vote one way or the other on the application. It didn't influence me. I have no financial interest. I've not made a site visit. I've had no ex parte contacts. I do, however, regularly drive by the site as I enter Lake Oswego from Portland.
Okay, thank you.
And I should say I'm Randy Arthur. I am an of-counsel attorney, civil litigation attorney at the Bullivan-Hauser-Bailey PC law firm in Portland, Oregon.
And Commissioner Silent, you didn't have any financial conflicts of interest declared, as I recall.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You can go ahead and discuss your consideration of the findings.
Okay. Does anybody have any objections to the findings or motion?
Move to approve the findings as submitted.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Kat, could you poll the commission, please?
Shear,
Abstain.
Girardi,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Silent,
Yes.
Arthur.
Yes.
Okay. So now we get on to a public hearing. So our public hearing tonight is for LU 20-0034, a request for approval of a development permit to construct an office flexible tenant space building and the removal of 28 trees. The site is located at 5550 Rosewood Street, designation 21E1-8BD00200. The staff coordinator is Evan Franstead, Senior Planning. This hearing was rescheduled from April 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the process, this land use request is considered based upon the applicable criteria and standards. The staff report lists the criteria and that staff identified as applicable to the request. It was available online and is probably, is it in the room? No, just available online. We ask for persons to identify any additional criteria that they believe applies. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards the applicable criteria. Please specifically identify to the commission the criteria or standards you are addressing so the commission may consider your testimony in relation to the criteria or standards that you are addressing. If you do not identify the criteria or standards that you're addressing, the commission is not obliged to guess which standards or criteria you are testifying about and may not consider your testimony as decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes raising the issue to the City Council and the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with specificity to allow the commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The public hearing process will be as follows. Again, presentation by staff, then testimony by the applicant, up to 20 minutes, then testimony by parties in support of the application, followed by testimony by parties opposed to the application, and then finally testimony by those neither for nor against the application. Individuals will be allowed up to 5 minutes. Any person in attendance may cede his or her time for testimony to another person except to the applicant, but in no case shall any person's testimony be increased to greater than 10 minutes. Recognized neighborhood associations, homeowner associations, government or government agencies, or other incorporated public interest organizations will be allowed up to 10 minutes. Following that would be the applicant's rebuttal up to 5 minutes, and then commission deliberation, including a statement to the applicant by the commission of any proposed conditions of approval different than contained in the staff report, and the applicant's response to those commission's conditions of approval proposed following commission deliberation. The time limits do not include time spent responding to questions from the commission. Testimony by attorneys, representatives, and witnesses on behalf of or which are part of the presentation by a person shall be counted within that person's time limit. It is assumed the person is testifying on their own behalf unless they expressly identify the recognized neighborhood association, homeowner association, government or government agency, or other incorporated public interest organization they are representing. A potential conflict of interest declared on behalf of each of the DRC members to the extent of their business or employment, which each will identify. Unless declared otherwise, the respective DRC member does not have a known present or anticipated future business relationship with the project or the applicant. It is possible a future business relationship could arise in the initiation, design, construction, or maintenance of the project through either the employment or business of the DRC member personally or through a relative as defined in ORS 244.020. At this point, I would ask the commission members please declare if you've had any ex parte contacts, including a site visit, if you have any bias on the application, any financial conflicts of interest to declare, and please state your business or employment. Commissioner Silent, if you'll lead it off.
My name is Mark Silent. I'm a local business owner. I did not make a site visit. I have no ex parte contact, no bias, and no financial conflicts.
Mr. Arthur?
As noted, I'm Randy Arthur. I'm an of-counsel attorney, a civil litigation attorney at the Portland office of Bullivan Bailey, PC. I have had no ex parte contacts. I have no financial interest. I've not made a site visit. I did cause a conflicts check to be run at my firm on names given to me by the city, and we had no identifiable conflicts.
Chair Scheer?
My name's Jeff Shear. I'm a retired contractor. I've had no ex parte contact. I did not make a site visit, although I am aware of the site very well because we used to live in the area. I have no bias and no financial conflict of interest that I know of, but I don't know who the owner is. Who's the owner of the property?
Do you know who the owner of the property is?
Yeah, it's Pacific.
Pacific Partner Commercial.
Okay, thank you. I'm not aware of them.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Smith?
My name is Kirk Smith. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Buckhalter Wynn. I do real estate and land use at Buckhalter Wynn. The city provided me with a list of parties, including the applicant and the applicant's consultants. I ran those names through our conflict systems and determined that I do not have a conflict with this matter. I have not visited the site. I have no ex parte contacts, no bias, and no additional financial conflicts of interest.
My name is Craig Berardi. I'm a financial consultant. I have not visited the site. I have no ex parte contacts, no bias, no financial conflicts.
Thank you. Is there any challenge to Commissioner's right to consider the application? Hearing none, Senior Planner Evan Franstead with a staff report.
Can you put my presentation up? Thanks. Hopefully this works. It's plugged in. I don't know. Bear with us while we have technical difficulties.
It's like we're on Zoom again.
It is in Laserfish, yes. Yeah, you can pull it up that way too. I could get started, yeah, if we don't need a... Okay, I'll get started and hopefully we can bring it up and Kat can control it. Okay, the applicant is requesting approval of a development review permit to construct an office flexible tenant space building and removal of 23 trees. The subject property is approximately 39,047 square feet in size with frontage on Rosewood Street. The site is zoned Industrial Park IP and is located within the Southwest Overlay District. Surrounding properties to the south, east, and west are also zoned IP and also in the Southwest Overlay District and are developed with commercial or industrial uses. The existing building on site is 4,186 square feet and is currently used as light manufacturing and will be demolished as part of this application. There are 33 trees on site that are 6 inches or more in diameter, including the trees in the frontage along the right-of-way. The application that requests removal of 23 trees to construct the project. 2 additional sweet cherry trees and English hawthorn that are invasive will be removed with separate invasive tree removal permits. The application includes retaining 8 trees on site. I see it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, see if I can drive this thing. Okay, there's the site. It's located on Rosewood. Pilkington Road is to the east. Willow Lane is to the south. Boone's Ferry is to the north. This is the aerial photograph from 2020. As you can see, the existing building there that will be demolished. The site is basically covered with trees along the perimeter. There's a parking lot there that will be removed. Here's the site plan. So the application includes a proposed two-story light industrial office and light manufacturing flex building that will be 16,791 square feet with 7 tenant spaces. The parking lot includes 42 parking spaces. In order for the applicant to be flexible based on the tenant needs, the configuration of tenant spaces and mix of uses is unknown at this time. There are a variety of permitted uses in the IP zone and within the Southwest Overlay District. The applicant narrative states that the future tenant needs may include light industrial, office, light manufacturing, which are all permitted uses in the IP zone. Since the applicant is not proposing any specific uses for this site, other than the existing use of light manufacturing with office, the uses will be reviewed at the time of business license and tenant improvement applications for each prospective tenant for compliance with IP zone uses and parking standards. Let me go back here. It's like it's going backwards. Sorry. All right, here are the elevation plans. The first 6 tenant spaces are 1 story. The back tenant, which is supposed to be the current business, the property owner, is the 2nd story, which includes a mezzanine, which will be 28 feet in height. There's also an outdoor patio balcony on that 2nd story. Each tenant space is covered with an entryway with painted metal canopy. The building is composed of painted concrete, tilt-up concrete smooth panels, simulated wood siding, and storefront glass windows. Here's the floor plan. As you can see, the 6 tenant spaces right here that are flexible. The Pacific business will be here. The 2nd story includes a lobby with offices. Part of it's open to the 1st floor downstairs, and there's a patio balcony right there. If I go back to the renderings here. So here's the artistic renderings with street view from Rosewood, and partially shows the east elevation and the main entrance to the main tenant, Pacific business. So the Southwest Overlay includes siting and building design standards that apply for the construction of this new building. One of the requirements is that new building must be placed within 20 feet of the front property line. Proposed building will be located 18 feet from the front property line in compliance with the standard. The Southwest Overlay requires facade articulation every 50 feet of a street-facing facade that must incorporate at least one of the following: a variation in building materials or treatment, building offset at least 2 feet, a design feature that reflects the building's structural system. The street-facing facade proposed is 75 feet long, includes a change in building materials and textures every 50 feet, with concrete painted dark gray, tilt-up concrete smooth panels, and storefront glass windows. The 6-foot deep metal awning or canopy painted black over the recessed entryways provide the required building offsets. The proposed facade meets these standards. The Southwest Overlay requires front yards must be landscaped or hard surface expansion of a pedestrian walkways that connect the building entrance to the street. The front yard includes landscaping of trees, shrubs, and pedestrian walkway that connects the building entrance to the sidewalk on Rosewood, as shown here. So those new street trees, existing trees will remain. Shows required landscaping will be met. The Southwest Overlay requires all loading areas to be located at the side or rear of the building and designed that vehicles enter and exit the site in a forward motion. The proposed parking is located on the side and behind the building. The narrative states that because the proposed building is a multi-tenant flex office building, there's no need for a loading dock or tractor trailers will not be allowed. Future tenant leases will include language limiting delivery truck size to step van vehicles. The site plan shows a turning movement for a 40-foot step fire truck that will be able to pull in around the rear of the building and then back up in the southeast corner of the site. That's best shown on this plan. So this is another site plan that's just a little bit busy, so I didn't want to leave it up the whole time, but it shows entering and exiting, and it shows a fire lane here where fire trucks can pull in and back up and exit in a forward motion. Access to the site will be provided by, let's see, I'm sorry, let me go back a second. The narrative states that because only the applicant's use of light industrial is known at this time, the most restrictive use of proposed offices has been used to calculate parking, including the industrial use for the tenant-maintained space. Based on these uses, the proposed parking lot with 42 parking spaces will exceed the minimum parking requirement for spaces. It is feasible that the use or mix of uses may result in more parking than assumed in the future. Ultimately, it is the burden of the property owner to ensure compliance with the parking standards for the uses on the site. Staff recommends condition B3 that requires the property owner to submit a parking matrix that provides the use of each tenant and required number of vehicle and bicycle parking spaces for each use to ensure ongoing compliance with the standard. Access to the site is provided by a 24-foot wide commercial driveway approach onto Rosewood Street. Engineering staff has reviewed the location of the access point to the site and determined that it has been designed in accordance with the requirements of the site distance requirements. A site distance analysis for the driveway approach was provided that documents the new driveway approach meets the AASHTO standards. Commercial sites must provide a minimum of 15% of the net developable area in landscaping and open space visible from off-site. The applicant's narrative states that 6,127 square feet of the site is landscaping, which is 15.6% of the site in compliance with that standard. The utility plan shows the proposed water and fire service will connect to the existing public main in Rosewood Street near the northwest corner of the site. A public water easement is required around the backflow for the fire line vault if it will be located outside of the right-of-way. The utility plan shows that the vault will be located outside the public right-of-way. Therefore, a public water line easement must be recorded as required with condition A4. Engineering staff finds overall that utilities are or can be made available. The applicant submitted a preliminary stormwater report prepared by a registered engineer. The city's contract stormwater review engineer reviewed the project and found the required proposed stormwater management system and stormwater proposal facilities, as well as any connections to offsite facilities, can be provided with recommended conditions of approval. Go to the tree removal plan here. So this is a tree removal plan. As I said before, they're removing 23 trees. Trees number 1 through 6 along Rosewood Street will be retained, and 4 new street trees will be planted in that area as well. Trees 10, which is right here in the landscaping bay right there, and tree 28 will also be retained. The removal, staff finds the removal will not have a significant negative impact on erosion, soil stability, flow of surface waters, protection of adjacent trees, or existing windbreaks. Staff finds that none of the trees meet the definition of a significant tree because they're not significant to the neighborhood when considering size, species, or distinctive character. Of the trees proposed for removal, only trees 39, 40, and 41, they're Douglas firs that are approximately 100 to 125 feet tall and are visible from the skyline of Rosewood Street to the surrounding properties to the south, are part of the neighborhood skyline. So that's trees 39, 40, and 41. Those trees can be seen from Rosewood Street and from the south. These trees, 3 trees are tall together and form a distinctive feature in the skyline. The removal of these trees would alter the continuity of the neighborhood skyline and requires review of the exception under criterion 3 that requires alternatives to tree removal that have been considered and no reasonable alternatives exist to allow the property to be used as permitted in the zone. The applicant's arborist report states the removal of these trees is recommended because survivability and concerns of future decline and possible failure of the trees make it impossible or unfeasible to retain the trees. The only alternative to removal of these trees would be to locate the building along the east side of the lot and redesign the parking lot to retain the trees. This would cause the parking lot to be reduced below the minimum number of required parking spaces. Also, locating the building on the east side would require removal of tree number 10, that I said before that they're retaining, which is a 31-inch Douglas fir it's proposed to be retained because it's in good condition. So you would lose a significant tree as part of that redesign. Staff finds that there's no reasonable alternative to removal of trees 39, 40, and 41. This criterion is met. And overall, staff finds that tree removal criteria are met. The removal of 23 trees requires 23 mitigation trees, 21 of which must be native. The arborist report notes that 4 Oregon white oak trees will be planted that are minimum 1.5-inch caliper in diameter, and the remaining trees will be mitigated by paying into the tree fund. As condition of approval, the applicant will be required to pay into the tree fund for planting of 19 trees prior to issuance of the building and tree removal permits. And in conclusion, staff recommends approval with conditions. This concludes the staff presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Evan. Do we have any questions for Evan? Randy?
Could you elaborate on the criteria you used to assess the minimum parking requirements and how you chose that criteria?
To assess the minimum parking requirements?
Yeah. For this application.
Well, sure, so it's just a basic numerical standard. So office uses require a certain amount of spaces, industrial uses require a certain amount of spaces.
And this has flex space.
And it's flex space. So they've said most likely they're going to use it as office and industrial. Office requires more use than some of the other uses that are allowed in the IP zone. So it's really up to the applicant to tell us how they think they're going to use the site based on what their parking needs are, they think they're going to meet. But it's also up to them to monitor that going forward and make sure that they are in compliance with how many parking spaces they have.
So this criteria that you applied resulted in the maximum parking required that could be imposed in this IP area?
Well, there's a minimum number required. There was a modification involved, as you probably saw in the staff report, and they exceed that by 2 spaces.
Thank you.
Mark, you have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll just elaborate. Any approval of a development makes an assumption as to what the uses are going to be, naturally. So based upon the assumptions, you look at the table, what light manufacturing in this case might be, type thing. When uses are actually going in, then as planner Francis indicated, you look at the business license or the building permit, and that triggers what use is actually going to go in. Then recalculation occurs as to minimum parking, okay? As to whether that it in fact provides minimum parking. If it doesn't, it's up to the owner to monitor that, i.e., it's up to the owner to comply to make sure that the use proposed that there's enough to meet the minimum parking standards on the site, okay, or else that use won't be approved. So that's addressed then in the permit approval, building permit or a business license.
I see, thank you.
Nope. No questions. Fred?
No questions.
Kirk? Okay. I have no questions. Now we hear from the applicant. Before you start, Kat, is there a way that, has there been any slips or anybody's going to testify tonight? No? No. Okay. Thank you. You kind of have to hold it. No, you don't. Just, I don't know. Okay. Red light's on?
It doesn't appear it's on.
Does that one work? Oh, that one works. Oh, there we go. Red light's off. Can you? No, there we go. That one's not working though. Well, it's nice to see everybody in person finally, so that's great. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Kevin Godwin. My partner, Scott Sutton here. We're here with, on behalf of SGI Architecture, LLC, and we're here on behalf of our client tonight. What I'd like to do, I also like to put out special thanks to Evan, who worked through us through the whole process, all the way through pre-app on this site. There was definitely some challenging pieces on this site that we had to work with, and it was nice to just kind of use him as an earpiece as we went through our programming and design throughout the site, and kind of made sure that we were going down the right road, that he felt confident that everything was going to come through safely, smoothly at the very end. So we appreciate his time and his efforts on that. So it was great. And thank you for being here tonight as well. I'm just going to do a quick overview. Evan did a great job of going through the whole entire site. Evan, could you maybe just bring up one slide if you could, the one that has the rendering and the colored site plan? That would be helpful just as we're talking. And I'm just going to give a kind of an overview of how some of the challenges and just everything else, and why the site is the way it is and how it was developed on the site. Basically, the existing property right now, like Evan said, it has the client currently uses the building right now that's out there, and we're looking to demolish that building and build this new development. It wasn't advantageous to take the building that was there already existing and try to expand upon it, because going forward, you'd have to be adding only 5 feet to the building to meet the requirements that are today in the code. And going to the rear of the site just wasn't going to be working for where the building was at. So we chose to go with a new development on the whole entire site. Right now, the property itself by code can be developed 100%. We're only developing about 43% of the building and some plaza areas on the entire site. Setbacks are 0 around the whole entire property by code. We are only using about an average 4-foot, 5-foot setback on the west, and on the north, of course, that's about an 18-foot setback really with our buildings meeting the code. And on the east portion, next to the vacant lot, we're about 4.5 feet to 5 feet average. And on the north, we have about a 4-foot average as well. On the south side. So we are not taking anything to the extreme. We're leaving some setback there for landscaping screening. The adjacent properties, of course, next to us, to the north is self-explanatory. It's the Rosewood Street, and then to the east is a vacant property. We didn't know what was being proposed for that property. We still don't, so we didn't really take that in consideration when we were designing the site. To the south, there is another parking lot. If you look at the Google Maps, the current one, there's a parking lot. So the parking lots will be up against one another with screening, and then there's the buildings will be about 90 feet from one another. Our building to the next one on the south, that is. And we're 2-story on our end, and as well as I think they are. It's an industrial building. And then to the west, if you're not familiar with the site, there's a very large, I think it's a SureGuard storage unit that was built there. They actually take up about 95% of that whole entire property line with building. The only place that they have a break in their buildings is between where we have those 3 trees that Evan spoke about on that west side. So they're taking up pretty much the whole entire property with their building itself, and they're pretty much right on the property line, or maybe a few feet off of that. So we've got our buildings basically back to back. As far as the site goes, the main criteria for us when we look at site planning is, we look at the overall existing conditions of a site. We just don't like to go in there and just start to put parking lots down and buildings and stuff. We want to see what's there. And of course, in this one, the main focus on this was the street frontage and the skyline of all those existing trees. We weren't going to by any means look to touch those trees at all. So that's why the site is developed the way it is as far as the driveway. That driveway is exactly the existing condition of what's out there today. We wanted to bring in the driveway a little deeper so that we can get around the 2 big Douglas firs that are flanking both sides of that existing driveway right now. So that's why we brought the parking all to the side, basically all the way to the back of the building on the side, hiding it as per the code asks or requests. And all the trees in the front, as Evan said, we're retaining at this point. We're not looking to touch any of those, but we did bring the building. We didn't want to bring the building any closer than 18 feet, to be honest with you, because we really didn't want to touch that root structure of any of those trees. We didn't want to damage anything. So we could have moved them forward, but then it would, I think, impacted the trees that were in the front. of the street. Along with that, there's going to be other trees added to that public works on that street. There's going to be a half-street improvement, and then there's going to be new sidewalk, street trees. So there's going to be additional trees added on that streetscape as well, which will make it quite nice in that area. We've also provided a main pedestrian walk from Rosewood all the way to the front of our building, all the way to along the whole entire plaza area. It's going to be an 8-foot plaza from the street to our building, and then it enlarges into a 12-foot plaza along the property, or excuse me, along the parking. We do that just to enhance the sidewalks a little better, also to provide a little room for the cars for overhang, and also for seasonal seating and seating areas that can be put out in the plaza areas. So we didn't want to condense that too much in that area and make it very open in there. We also wanted to look at, when you look down that plaza, if you look at the rendering up at the top, we have a lot of storefront in there, and we have, there's going to be multiple tenants in there, but we also wanted to make it so that when you look down that plaza and you walk down that plaza, the experience wasn't that you're going to look at the back end of a parking lot where you have those cars on the south side. We created an element at the end of that building, which is an entrance, as you can see on the lower right-hand slide there, which is the main tenant of this development. We provided a appendage out from that building, which is some seating, and then behind that whole seating area is actually a dry rock river bed with seating out there that actually comes around to the outdoor seating area that you see on the very corner of that building. So we're creating some sort of element. We just didn't want to see it to be parking lot, basically. In addition to that, we put all the parking in the back there, which is for the employee for that particular tenant. They have about 12 cars that they only need. So that's really, that parking in the back is for that tenant, as well as the loading zone that they have right adjacent to their building. So we're bringing all the loading in the back as well for these tenants. Most of those tenants in the front will load from the front doors, which is typical for most tenants that size. We also, as Evan had explained about the fire lane turning, maneuvering, which is very important for the fire trucks to be able to get back there. And that's why the site also is kind of L-shaped in the back, is to facilitate fire trucks to come in and do a hammerhead, as they call it, and use that zone that's right there at an angle to back in and out. And also that'll be used for any other trucks that are around 40 feet. I think we had accommodated about a 40-foot truck to basically maneuver back there. What's also nice is the tenants that would be the multi-use tenants in the front should a brew pub or some sort of tenant that might be having evening times. The nice thing about this is that the business in the back, which has about 16 cars dedicated to them, they'll close at 5 o'clock. So now we've got some overflow parking for those other tenants in the evening if they should need them. So that makes the property a little bit easier, or the businesses to be a little more flexible and not have to worry about the parking. As far as landscape, as you can see on that image there, we've actually depicted the actual landscaping that we're proposing on that color rendering. You can see that there's quite a bit of additional landscaping outside of just the trees that we're removing, but we're showing the trees that are existing in there, as well as all the new trees that are being put in the plaza areas between the parking stalls along the perimeter of the site. So it's not just going to be a parking space and just bark. It's going to be parking space, some shrubs, and then another layer of trees throughout on all 3 sides of that property, as well as enhancing the front of the property with a few more trees. We couldn't really do much with the west side just because the buildings are up against one another and it wouldn't be applicable to even put anything there. But we want the site to feel like it's been, that there's a lot of trees, a lot of softscapes throughout the whole site. As far as the mitigation, we are mitigating only 4 trees at this point, and the main reason for that is we just don't have the room to put any more trees on the site. So we have to really kind of put it in the bank at that point, and for the other 21 trees, I think is what we were mitigating for. As far as the 3 trees on the west side that are Let me get back to also that we had some communication also after we submitted. Evan had contacted us and said that there was a resident that was concerned about one of the trees that we were trying to remove, which was right behind the fire truck maneuvering, right there in that little area in the corner. We actually went back, exactly right there. We actually went back, and that's a 40-inch tree, so it's a pretty tall tree. So we went back with our civil engineers, and we went back and redid all our CAD drawings for the fire trucks, and we actually were able to make that work and preserve that tree as well. You know, we weren't trying to take away any more trees than we had to. That's why we were trying to enhance the site as well with more trees. And we also saved the tree in the parking lot that's up on the, about third of the way down on the east side. That was one also that was right in the middle of the parking lot. So we just basically worked with our arborist right up front in the beginning of the project and asked them, what do we need there? And we're putting a good-sized landscaping island in there so that we can also preserve that. And also, from the beginning of the project, 3 trees on the west side that we just could not work around. We started with the arborist right up front to ask them, you know, what's our best case scenario here for those trees even, you know? And he looked at it up front because we didn't want to go down that road and try to save a tree. And you can see how it would jeopardize the project a little bit just by the shape of the project. So he looked at it in the beginning and told us that he didn't feel like those trees weren't to save. And just because of the development that was done prior to ours, the storage, that had done some damage to those trees. And so, you know, we thought that it was the best way to just do the development the way that we would like it to be done and not take the chance of those trees even falling down on something that we would build around even. And for that matter, we wouldn't be able to even do, but, you know, a third of this project if we would have had to preserve those trees. So we did our best efforts to work around those, and we did talk to the professionals. I think he has the report, his arborist report, if you haven't had a chance to read it, to come in there and give us direction up front is what we wanted to do, and try to come up with the best scenario for not only the developer, you know, that needs to lease this building at some point in time too and make it marketable, but also just to make it still a nice project. Also, us putting this building where it's at now does help block the 3-story building from Rosewood of the Sureguard buildings. So it does give it a little bit of a better, softer look there, at least with all the storefront and so forth. But that's pretty much in a nutshell that we have going on for this project. The building is going to be a tilt-up building, concrete. We gave you some color palettes on that. We meet the 50% requirement in the front of the building for the storefront. We have front doors going out to Rosewood. And we're trying to soften up the building a little bit with some more wood to bring in some natural colors instead of it just being a sterile tilt-up building. We've put a lot of windows into it, so. Scott, do you have anything else?
No, any questions?
Yeah, we'll take any questions you have.
Any questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no one that wants to testify either for or against the project? No? Okay. Evan?
Does the applicant wish to an opportunity to submit additional evidence, which, if the request is made, the public hearing would be continued? Does the applicant want to file a final written argument, which would be within the next 7 days and would not contain new evidence? Nope. Indicating not, you may proceed with deliberation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Craig, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great project, great presentation. City did a great job. Putting money in the bank on the trees is great. I bought trees 25 years ago at the farmer's market. They're already like 50 feet tall, so it goes good. So yeah, I think it's great. Thanks.
Sure. Nothing. Randy?
I appreciated the good presentation by the applicant's representative, and it looks to me to be an acceptable and good project. It doesn't appear they're filling the entire developable site that they could develop. It appears they've made adequate allowance for landscaping. There's a apparently a sufficient separation with adjacent buildings. It's a shame to lose trees, but I appreciated the applicant's consideration for the trees and good protection of remaining notable trees, and it appears to have an appealing front, so I will be voting in favor of approving the application with the conditions.
Mark,
No comment.
is there a motion?
I would move to approve the application with the conditions noted in the staff report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Kat, could you poll the commission?
Shear,
Yes.
Berardi,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Silent,
Yes.
Arthur.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, this is a tentative decision by the commission with written findings brought back to the commission on Monday, the 19th. I'm advised that there's no public hearing scheduled, so the question is whether it's 7 or 6 p.m.
Gentlemen, what works for you, 7 or 6?
6
Kirk?
works.
6 works.
Either one.
6 is tough for me, but I'll do what I can to get here at 6.
No, if it's tough, we'll do it at 7.
7 is fine, too.
Okay.
I might add that you are welcome to have the meeting virtually if you'd like to have it online via Zoom, since there is no public hearing. That is an option for the commission
I
as
vote
well.
for Zoom.
Gentlemen, would you rather do that?
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Zoom.
At what time?
Okay.
Was that
Let's
Zoom at 7 or Zoom at 6?
6 will work.
Okay. It's a 6 Zoom.
Thank you,
Okay.
and go home.
Yes. Okay, we do have a management update and a few issues to address. Jessica?
Yeah, just a quick update. So I am sorry to inform you that Chair Polson, or not Chair Polson, excuse me, David Polson is not reappointed to the DRC. However, he is still an alternate. So if there's any vacancies in the next year, then he would come back on the commission. We do have a new commissioner. His name is...
Sorry. It's my daughter.
His name is Bruce Poinsett, and he will be at the next meeting. I did inform him that it was probably going to be a short meeting, but we will introduce him at the next meeting, and that gives us a chance also to have an orientation because he was just appointed last night. So we have that coming up. So on our next meeting, it'll just be the adoption of findings, the introduction of Bruce Poinsett, and I do not have any other DRC items as of yet scheduled for August. So we will certainly keep you informed if anything changes, but as of right now, we don't have any scheduled meetings for August. As I might have mentioned before, the North Anchor project has been submitted as an application to the city. It is in its completeness review stage, but if it does go complete soon, then it is possible that would be in September, and that would be the first meeting in September. And as a reminder, because our first meeting in September falls on Labor Day, we will be meeting on a Wednesday, which I believe is September 9th. And that's all I have for the management update, and I know that you have the issue of chair and vice chair. If you want to talk about that.
So we need to elect a chairman and a vice chairman. So we can think about it and do it at the Zoom meeting, or we can do it tonight, whatever your thoughts are.
I'd like to suggest that we keep you as chairman, if you're willing to serve.
Thank you.
And I would second that motion.
I'd like you to be chair and vice chair.
Okay. No, thank you. I'll do one. Okay, I'll do it one more year. I can do it one more year.
Motion, a vote would be in order.
Okay. Kat, would you
Shear,
abstain?
Berardi,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Silent,
Yes.
Arthur.
Yes.
Thank you. Now we need a vice chairman. Is there anyone who would like to be vice chairman?
I'd be happy to serve if asked, but there are others who are equally qualified.
We can draw lots. Somebody want to make a suggestion?
I'd recommend one of our two senior members, but up to them.
Who's oldest?
You talking
Not
about
senior in
age?
that mind, but
We got our
I don't know about
IDs.
I would like to nominate the attorney.
Good job. Evan can't serve.
No, I have one of these two. I would like to nominate Randy.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, Kat, could you vote, poll us, please?
Shear,
Yes.
Berardi,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Silent,
Yes.
Arthur.
I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
We have
thank you,
officers.
and may you never be-
Congratulations.
May you never be absent.
I will be. I think that's it. I have one thing for you, Jessica, afterwards. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing it up.